we're going to be getting into app creation. We have our storyboards done. You should have an idea of what sort of content, what sort of screens are going to be present. And I'm going to split this demo up into two sections. One is the design portion, which should be pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy, especially if you do have experience with Adobe softwares like Illustrator or Photoshop. And then we'll do the prototyping, which is going to be your wireframe and assigning the behaviors to your application and your buttons, like your transitions, and how do you get from one screen to another. So for this app, or for this demo, we're just going to create a new document. And what's really nice is Adobe XD has presets for whatever sort of application or content you're building. So it has the iPhone 14 Pro Max. And of course, there's other sort of mobile device resolutions you can build out of, web, Instagram story, custom size, whatever. So let's just start with iPhone 14. And it's going to generate that resolution of the phone's screen size. And so we can see this, we can kind of interchangeably use the word artboard and screen here because this is an artboard. And you can create artboards. On the left-hand side, there's a toolbar. There's the artboard creation, text, pen, line, polygon, ellipse, rectangle, and the selection tool. At the bottom, we have our layers, which everybody should be familiar with in building out your hierarchy of the content on the screens. And then above, this is your document assets. And this is probably the most important part of Adobe XD because you can build out this document asset area so you have consistent content throughout the entire design build. So you can have just consistent colors, characters, so typefaces, and components, as well as videos, but we're only going to be using the top 3 for here. So how do we access, or how do we build this out? So for the colors, I'm just going to make a really quick palette. Let's do like 6 colors. We're going to get rid of the border, and let's give it some random colors here. And your app probably wouldn't have this combination of colors because it is kind of crazy looking. But you get the point. So this is my palette throughout the whole app design. And what you can do once you have your palette selected, you can select all, right-click, add colors to assets, or you can go over here and add colors. That way, when you're building out your app, you're making sure you're using the same color combination. Everything looks like consistent, designed by the same person. It has the same like brand flow, and so on. I'm just pressing T. I'm gonna make some text, sample text, and then another one, sample text, and then another one. So I'm going to assign some character styles to this app. And on the right side, this is all your editing settings. So for example, your alignment, your transform options. If it's text, editing your text size, style, so on and so on. And we'll get into the appearance part a little bit later. So I'm just going to assign these a couple different typefaces. And we'll do cool. So all these are going to be the character styles that I'm going to be using. And I'm just going to go ahead, select them all, add to character style. Now, we have components. So this would be stuff as, or objects such as like your hamburger drop-down menu, your buttons, your account images, and I'll show you that in this app that I built out for the demo. So I have a lot of different components, and I make sure to name them all appropriately so that you know exactly what you are dragging and dropping into your app. So for example, I have this user pick, and every time I drop it in, it's going to be that size. And let's see, so like 2 different buttons I have. So I can just drag and drop and use these assets throughout the app. So let's build a button. Let's do like a login button. Let's give it this green. And we'll say log in. Center it. And something I'm not really a fan of in XD, but you have to manually go in and edit some of the transform options. Let's make this white. Boom. So unlike like Adobe Illustrator or InDesign, there's not like a drop-down menu where you can select, you know, 72 point, 48 point. You have to actually type that in by hand. So we have our login button. I'm going to select all, group, and I'm going to make component. And I can also just select and do the plus button. So we'll call this login. Now, when I want to use this on another page, just going to throw it right over here. There it is, exact same thing. But what's really nice is I can right-click, edit main component, and it's going to take me to that original component. So typically I like to build out some of my assets on a totally separate page that will not be included in the app, such as here. I just name it assets, and I just build out some of my assets so that way I have them all in the same place. So here we're editing our main component, and as you can see, if I edit the main component, the original, it does it on all of them. So I'm just going to pull that over here. So it's very convenient and pretty self-explanatory too. Another couple cool things I like to play around with is some of the effects. So, you know, you can obviously import images or, you know, build out your own, but there is the inner shadow, so you see this like kind of like it's sunken in, and you can edit that here. A drop shadow, so it kind of looks like it's floating. And there's also a background blur. So I'll just kind of show you guys what that looks like. And you can adjust the settings. How blurry do you want it? The brightness. and then the saturation. So kind of a lot of cool things you can do with this to kind of hide flaws or hide seams, but pretty basic design toolkit here. So like I said, if you're familiar with Illustrator, you should be good to go here. Let's see. There's also clipping masks you can make. So I can subtract or add. So different types of booleans that we can do to create shapes. So feel free, mess around. Yeah, like I said, pretty self-explanatory. And it should be pretty easy to build out your app now that you have the storyboard. So in the next video, I'll go over the prototyping and how we connect pages to one another.